We're going to go in and take a look at these bolt assemblies again, give you an idea what's going on here, the differences in the tolerances on the two different platforms here. Let's pull this AR bolt out and go ahead and rip out this bolt assembly on the AK. Alright, as you can see, both of them readily field strip. Okay guys, the big differences here. You notice on the AR-15 bolt, 7 lugs, doesn't have to turn much to go into the lock position. The AK system turns on 2 lugs. So a lot of clearance here on this bolt. You see it, oh, you can stick your finger between it. So pretty easy gun to disassemble also. So all this comes into play. 2 lugs, good extractor, good firing pin system. Just hard to beat. Goes together relatively quick, even when you don't know what you're doing. So that's not a bad deal right there. The weight of the bolt assemblies, this is of course quite heavier. The bolt itself here bumps up on a buffer on the AR, so I would still think this AK system might be just a little bit heavier. And that means a little bit more secondary recoil, but maybe also it might function a little bit better when it's completely dirty. But one thing about the AR platform, it's fitted up pretty tight in the receiver. You see these locating tracks. When they fit in the upper receiver, when all this goes in the battery, it has a really good lockup. The way the bolt assembly works on the AR, the gas tube from the barrel assembly goes into the gas key. So it actually enters through this opening in the front, through here. So when you fire, it basically energizes the chamber on the back of the bolt, throwing the bolt carrier to the rear, and that turns the bolt head and lets it reciprocate and feed another cartridge. So, and on the AK system, it uses an op rod, which bleeds gas. Gas is bled off from the barrel, pushes on the front of the piston, and this whole thing stays in a fixed assembly, and it unlocks the bolt during its unlocking cycle, of course, and then picks up another cartridge and goes back in the battery. So pretty simple, pretty robust system. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put them back together right quick, and we'll take a closer look at the triggers. Okay, we got everything in there. Put our pin back. Okay, little boy up here. Alright, on the right spot. Run it home. I do have to say it's pretty easy to put back together. I'm not really sure if the bolts on these things aren't fully interchangeable. They're probably built to where they can. Alright, let's take a look at some trigger pulls here. I've got a trigger gauge. We've got a couple of different AKs here, so let's just do a little testing here on trigger pulls. We're empty. Go ahead and turn the trigger pull gauge on, and let's pop it a few times and see where we are. I know when we was out on the range, 3 pounds 6 ounces, and these 2 rifles I borrowed, and they're both stock, so 3 pounds 7 ounces. So we're running right under 4 pounds. 3.5 pounds there. Okay, we're empty. Yep, let's try it again on this one. So we had about 3 pounds 7 ounces on that one. 3 pounds 11 ounces. It has a relatively long trigger pull. Feels really close to a double action revolver than it does a rifle. 3 pounds 11 ounces again. If you notice the trigger itself, it's pretty long and curved. You see how much travel it has to fire it. It's almost a 1/4 of an inch of travel to actually fire it. Maybe more than that. So it's quite a long motion to discharge a shot. Let's go to this AR system. We empty. Let's see what we can do here. I noticed on the range this one was especially hard. It's even harder with the safety on. Went all the way to 10 pounds. Let's try that again. That was 7 pounds, 9 ounces. It was kind of apparent when I was shooting it that it was 7 pounds, 11 ounces. So we're running over almost between 7.5 and 8 pounds. So this is almost twice as heavy. And this is a totally stock trigger, I would suspect. It's pretty gritty. Let's take a look how long it takes, how much trigger pull we have. It's probably half the AK, maybe a third of the pull of an AK style. So a lot shorter, but this one's a lot heavier. Let's go on to something bigger and better. I've got one of my competition rifles. Let's see what we... And one thing really good about these platforms, the AR platforms, is how easy it is to work on the triggers and how many good trigger systems are actually available for the rifle itself. Let's go ahead and zero out and see what we have here. Oh, safety, safety, safety. Let's do that again. That's 2 pounds 8 ounces. 2 pounds 8 ounces. So this particular rifle is set up at 2 pounds and 8 ounces. So very short trigger pull. This is made by American Gold, and what he's trying to do with his triggers is to simulate the 1911 trigger pull and reset. So let's just take a look here. We empty, take the free travel out of it, and that was it. Cock it, reset. Yeah, I like that a whole lot better. I'm pretty much spoiled to the competition triggers. And this is a drop-in unit, so on the AKs you basically have to live with what you have, unless you modify the parts or have some aftermarket parts put in it. I don't think anybody makes a match trigger for the AR. So it's easy to retrofit these to better triggers. Of course, this one has a lightweight bolt head and everything else, and a full Picatinny rail coming out the front. So you can put rails on the sides or whatever you want. So the system's available for mounts and optics and whatever you want to do with it is vast. So just an easy platform to work with. So a quick overview of the platforms here. The AR style platform is vastly superior with all the aftermarket goodies that you can do, how fast you can change the uppers and lowers, triggers, sights, compensators, just endless supply of pieces and parts that you can retrofit on these things to make them exactly what you want them to do and how you want to play with them. The AKs, of course, are limited. They're riveted together. The triggers are very limited to what you can do with them. The stock design, where you can mount optics, the accuracy potential. But either platform, I would think, if properly cared for, would function just as good as the other. The AK, if you're not familiar with guns and you just want something to stick in a corner, never worry about, and kickstart it with your boot, it would probably be the one to do. If you're looking for something for accuracy and just flexibility, I think the AR style platforms are vastly superior. So we're going to look at some ammunition next, give you some ideas what's going on there. We'll take a look back at the AK-47 round. What we have here is a 7.62 by 39. It's 30 caliber. It's actually a 311, 312 diameter bullet. It's about 123, 125 grains. Does about 23, 2400 feet a second, depending what barrel you shoot it out of. What the Soviets found out during the Second War, most of their combat scenarios were within 300 yards. So the effective range of the cartridge didn't need to be much more than that. They made the ammunition smaller, made it more compact. You could shoot them faster, you could carry more, so it just made sense at the time to downsize. The Germans had came up with the idea before the Russians with their 8mm Sturmgewehr, basically. So the Soviets copied it in 1943. They started manufacturing this one particular cartridge for that one purpose there. More bullets, smaller bullets, giving the soldier more firepower, less weight. Okay guys, we're going to look at the AK-74 round. It's the 5.4 55 by 39 millimeter. It's a 60 grain bullet. Of course, it's Soviet, so it's going to have a steel case. The jacket is a mild steel also, and it's copper washed. Another interesting feature of this cartridge is how they actually designed the bullet. It doesn't have a steel core in it or anything like that. It's more of an anti-personnel round. You notice one here that I filed away. There's a big airspace right in the nose of the projectile. And what that does, of course, when it hits anything, any kind of a barrier or a medium, it starts to deform the nose of the bullet. And the whole idea behind that is to get the bullet to start to get sideways or tumble or invert backwards. Of course, the wound channel is going to be amplified greatly with that effect of the tumbling of the bullet. So this little airspace is a pretty interesting design. So that's the AK-74 round. It's about 2,800 feet a second on that projectile. We're going to go over to the US cartridges. The standard ball round is actually a 224 thousandth diameter bullet. It weighs 55 grains. It's spec'd out of a 20-inch barrel to do about 3,200 feet a second. It's just a standard copper jacketed full lead core projectile. So the bullet itself looks exactly like that, 55 grain. The original design on the M16, the barrel rifling twist, I think, was a 1 in 12 or 1 in 14, and what that did for the bullet was it had minimum accuracy and minimum stability. So when it hit something, it had a tendency to get sideways, and if you were lucky, the bullet would actually start to come apart in the cantilever here, or it would invert completely backwards, and you had a big soft point. So the wound channel was quite devastating with the 55 grain ball ammo. The next evolution of the 5.56 NATO round is the green tip. It's a 60 grain bullet. It's spec'd out at about 3,100 feet a second, or right around there, out of a 20-inch barrel. I've got one sectioned off here. It actually has a steel penetrator. You see the different color. This is the lead core, and this is the steel in the front. Copper jacket, pretty effective round. It's a dual purpose round. It's good for hard barriers, also for tissue. It has a tendency also to penetrate about 14 inches. It wants to invert a little bit and start to come apart in the cantilever. So it's a pretty interesting round. It gets the job done. I would probably say this is probably across the board a more effective cartridge. Let's have a quick overview of what we're looking at here. So the Soviet standard round, turn of the century, was a 7.62 by 54R. They went down to the 7.62 by 39, and then finally to the AK-74 round, the 5.45 by 39. So as you can see, things are getting smaller, trying to get the soldier more ammunition, less recoil, smaller platform to fire it out of, a handier package. And we can look at the American transition from that period also. The standard M2 ball, 150 grain bullet, 30-06, down to the M80 ball, which is a standard 308 round, 150 grain, 147 grain bullet there, again doing about 2850. And now we wind up with the standard 223 5.56 round, and then eventually to the green tip 5.56 NATO round. So you can see everything is getting smaller, more compact, allows the soldier more ammunition, smaller platform to use, lighter weight. Just the evolution of the game. So there you have it, guys. You got two distinct platforms developed in different countries. The end goal is about the same. The performance is about the same. It's like apples and oranges. I kind of like the apples and there's the oranges. So either one gets the job done. I kind of favor the AR.